We are ready to start our Supreme Show. We need our junior champions to the ring, please. All our junior champions.
Here we are for our Best Junior Doe show at the 2022 NAILE. I just learned a few minutes ago that I was fortunate enough to get to judge 504 goats this weekend, and had a lot of fun doing it. I have to say that I've shown down here at the NAILE and have consistently visited this show, and it's truly one of the highlights of the year. I can remember when they had this dairy goat show far over in the corner where they have the exhibitor exhibits, and I think there were 30 or 40 goats that year, but it's really grown and is one of our premier shows. A lot of you folks that I see in this crowd here are people that I've met over the years, and I have to say that I met some new folks at this year's NAILE that I didn't get to meet. I'm really disappointed that I haven't got to meet them before now, because they're just such high quality people. Used to be that if you had a goat and milk and you had something that was worth hauling down here, you kind of threw it in the truck at the last minute and you brought them. Well, I can tell you after having judged this show this year that there were certain goats that were here for a reason, because they were here because they were going to be shown at the right time of the year. Maybe they were a little green earlier in the year and weren't shown to their best advantage. But boy, I tell you what, when it turned November, they found themselves out here on the green shavings, and it was all hands on deck. You folks heard me say what I liked about each one of these goats. So I don't want to bore you with not only what you've already heard, but as knowledgeable goat people, what you can plainly see. But what I want to do is I want to tell you why my Best Junior Doe show is going to be my selection. Today, when I look at my Best Junior Doe show, she's one of those does that when you put her in the bright lights, she doesn't melt down. The big stage isn't too big for her. It doesn't dwarf her conformation and her quality in any way, shape, or form. But today she's a doe that just walks out with greater width between the hocks today than we have in our Toggenburg. She's a doe that's a smoother front-ended doe than we have with our Saanen. Today she shows me more natural length over that loin today than we have in our recorded grade. When she's on the move, she's one of those does that just holds together a little better over that chine loin than we have in our Nubian doe. Today she's a doe that has just a magnificent texture of skin when you get your hands on it. Just the looseness and pliability of skin, more so than what we had in our Nigerian. Today she's a doe that just tracks straighter and truer, surprisingly, more so than we have in our La Mancha. And then when we get to our Oberhasli doe, she's a doe that, in our Alpine doe, she's a doe that today just carries more depth back in that flank, more naturally level when she's on the move. Yes, it came down to these two does at the head of the line, but today, Alpine Best Doe show. Before I select my grand champion best doe and show here, my best doe and show doe here in our 2022 national event here at our NAILE, really want to call attention to a dear friend of mine that's here, somebody that I have known for several years, somebody that's well respected in the dairy goat world. And I have to tell you, there were a couple times when I was judging this big show today, I wish I had him right there beside me, Mr. Bob Bartholomew. Bob, would you please stand? A gentleman that does so much for dairy goats in this area, a man that I have so much respect for, and it's just a real treat to have him in our show and have him pulling the trigger on the camera on so many beautiful goats. One of those things that just kind of adds to the show that never gets the attention that it deserves. And certainly, my friend, you do a great job. So thank you, Bob, for being here. When we look at this lineup, I thought we had just a lot of strength and a lot of power and substance when you look at this lineup here. Does, you can see I like does with a length of bone, flatness of bone. And it doesn't matter if I'm looking at a Nigerian or if I'm looking at a Toggenburg. I really want them to try to adhere to the scorecard as much as possible, but yet at the same time be their own breed. When we look at these goats, I felt like today the one goat that just kind of stamped her ticket, really kind of threw the pocket full of aces today, one particular goat. And it's really strange that when you get into a show of this type of quality and goats coming from different parts of the country, that your decision as a judge gets to be so vividly clear in their choice. But today really felt like the doe that excelled our Alpine today in the overall capacity of the mammary system, the height and width to the rear udder today. Was a doe that just more height and width to the rear udder today than our Alpine, more desirable texture to the mammary system that we had in our AOP or our Oberhasli doe. A doe that today had more capacity, greater area of attachment today than we had in our Toggenburg. A doe sounder on all 4 feet, a little sounder in that chine today than we had with our Sonnen. She was a doe that just transitioned more correctly from that neck into that shoulder, more length of neck today than we had in our recorded grade La Mancha type doe. She's a doe that today just had so much more spring of rib and depth of body than we had in this absolutely stunning 9-year-old Nubian doe here. And then today, I really felt like she was a doe that was just showing me a little more desirable set to the hind leg when viewed from the side, a little more length of neck to go along with that, and a doe that I felt, again, just carried more height, width in that rear udder today than we had in our Nigerian La Mancha best doe and show. Well, one thing for sure, there's never a better seat to watch a goat show than to be the judge judging it. You get to see things, you get to hear things that the audience doesn't know. Fortunately for me, before I became a licensed judge, I gave myself plenty of years to learn from my mistakes and try to do the best I could when I decided to be a judge. And a lot of that has to do with trying to really leverage the strong points of certain breeds that typically just aren't there, okay? We all know what those are. You know, it can be any breed that has that issue with either front ends or dairiness or whatever. And so what I'm looking for in any type of best in shows, I'm looking for that animal that for her breed really just kind of separates herself, really bumps the bar for the breed in certain aspects. When we do that today for our Supreme Udder, I'm not going to go through every one of these goats like I just did, but what I'm going to tell you is the goat that I'm going to pick for Supreme Udder is a very sneaky goat. She was a goat that was showing when not a lot of people were paying attention. She was a goat that today, for her breed, had the highest, widest rear udder that you typically don't see on this breed, had the most desirable size and shape of teat, a medial suspensory ligament that yielded to no other goat in this lineup. And when she milks down to almost nothing. And she has so much capacity to the forudder that when I laid my hands on it, I had to kind of look to make sure that I was looking at the type of goat that I was judging. Today, our Supreme Udder, with no doubt in my mind, is that AOP doe at the head of the line. She's our best udder. I think one of the neatest things about the NAILE, and I've admired this over the years, is having this supreme 3 best females. It's something that we don't actually get to see a lot, and then getting to pick a best supreme female. I think for judging an individual class, this is really exciting for me, and something I've really enjoyed. Again, because I get to look at each one of these groups as a breed and really pick the group that I feel atypically is just so much more positive than that breed that you see every Saturday or Sunday at any common show. For this breed, they're a breed that shows us really straight front ends, really smooth and correct in their general appearance, and the mammary systems on each one of these does is superb in its area of attachment and width throughout. I may have tipped my hand when I picked my supreme udder, but AOP, 3 best females.